Hello, gentle marketers. Welcome to episode 25 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm. I'm Sarah Senecroce, I'm the host here, and you know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur or change maker who is looking for a better way to market your business. Or you are an entrepreneur who is tired of the traditional marketing hypey model and are ready for a paradigm shift. I waited as long as I could to record this episode because I just got over the flu. I was in bed for 2 days and then just had this terrible head cold, still have. And but eventually I just had to give in and record today's episode, even though I hate my voice even more than usual with that kind of nasally tone to it. I hope you don't hear it. Real quick, before we dive in today's episode, if you're on iTunes, I'd love for you to leave a review. It really helps other gentle souls find our show and help us with this marketing paradigm shift. Thank you so much. So I'm back with another book update. And in the last Behind the Book update, I shared kind of my structure and how I got organized to work on the book. And back then I said I might read you one of the chapters, but instead I thought I'd share a bit what goes on in my head right now or as I'm writing. So for starters, I really do question my prose when I sit down and write. Just like everything I do, I have really high standards for myself. So I want to give it all my best. And of course, though, I'm not a writer, but I do remember writing really good essays in school. I remember getting good grades for whenever we had to write an essay. And back then I was writing in German. But when I look at my writing now, I keep thinking it's so straightforward. There is really no linguistic beauty to it. And my sentences are short and maybe a bit too much straight to the point. And my coach Jenny encourages me to use metaphors, but they just don't come natural to me. I don't think in metaphors. So yes, even though I feel confident about my message, I'm sometimes not so sure about my prose. Another thing I started to think about is next steps. So when I started out writing, I decided I was just going to write and without thinking too much about whether I was going to self-publish or find a publisher. And now that I'm about halfway into the book, I do wonder about my next steps. Do I need an agent? How do I find one? Where should I publish? In Switzerland doesn't make much sense since I write in English, but in the US feels scary and very competitive. The UK? I don't know anybody in the UK, so all of these thoughts do go through my head now. And in case you have any info on that or have read anything, I'd love to hear from you if you would just send me an email to sarah@sarahsenecroce.com. The other thing that I keep reminding myself is that it's not my book and it's not my revolution. I'm not writing this book for myself. It's not a vanity project just so that I can say that I'm an author or worse, bestseller. I'm really not a big fan of people who put bestseller onto their LinkedIn headline because actually when you go dig it a bit deeper, it's actually super easy to be a bestseller in a tiny category on Amazon. So to write bestseller in your LinkedIn headline, even though you're just a bestseller for a tiny little category, I don't know, that kind of sounds a bit like boasting or cheating, or it just doesn't sound very good to me. So that's not why I'm writing. I'm not writing to become a bestseller. I'm writing in the hope that it will have an impact, even if just a tiny impact on this marketing paradigm shift. So yeah, that's why I'm writing, and I really hope it will help a few entrepreneurs, maybe a few hundred, to give themselves permission to show up as who they are in their marketing. So no, it's not my book. And yet, it does include my stories. The best business books I've read are those who actually include personal stories of the author going through his or her own transformation. Then, on the other hand, some of the most boring business books are those that only describe a framework, and there's no personal stories, or there's only stories of these big companies that we can't really relate to. So I want this to be a relatable book. A good example of this are Brené Brown's books. In her early books, she didn't share so many personal stories. But the more personal stories she shared in her more recent book, the more the books resonated with people because they felt like, oh, she's one of us. She's going through these vulnerability shit storms, like she likes to call them herself. So yes, I am sharing my own journey and my stories, and that's also sometimes what I struggle with, because I keep wondering where the line is of sharing too much, making it too much about my own stuff. In the end, I'm not trying to write a biography, and as an introvert, I've always struggled with taking up too much space, like being in the spotlight. That's just not where I'm comfortable. So I guess in this case, an editor's opinion would really be helpful. Like, where's this line? Where am I sharing too many of my own stories? And at the same time, even if in the end all my personal stories don't end up in the book, writing them down has definitely a healing effect. Terry Pratchett said, the first draft is just you telling yourself the story. So true. Talking about editors, I guess that's one of the next steps as well. For starters, we decided that Tony, my husband, will do the first round of editing. And later, yes, I'll need to work with a professional editor. But for now, that depends on whether I self-publish or go through the traditional way. So those are some of the thoughts that go through my head at this stage of the book. And once I'm down with this first shitty draft, I'll create some kind of small reader work group and of course invite you to join should you be interested. You can find the show notes for this episode at sarahsenecroce.com/GBR25. And also wanted to let you know that I'm taking a short break and we will be back with season 4 on March 6th. I hope you'll join me on this journey to a kinder marketing paradigm. Please invite your friends to join us by sharing this podcast or the Gentle Business Manifesto with them. Both can be found at thegentlebusinessrevolution.com. And again, a review on iTunes would really totally make my day. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. See you on March 6th.